All right, joining us this morning is Akbayan Party List Representative Chel Diokno. Representative Diokno, good morning to you.
Good morning, Karen. Good morning to everyone watching and listening.
All right, what was your reaction when the president certified as urgent essentially these four measures: Anti-Dynasty Law, Party List System Reform Act, Citizens Access and Disclosure of Expenditures for National Accountability or yung Cadena, and the Independent People's Commission Act?
Well, first of all, Karen, I think we have to clarify there's a difference between prioritizing bills and certifying them as urgent. When the president certifies them as urgent, then we can bypass the constitutional requirement of having separate days for the first, second, and third readings. That's provided both in the Constitution and in the rules of the House. Unfortunately, the president did not certify the measures as urgent. He just said that this would be a priority. We only have counting today, we only have 6 session days and before Christmas. And since they haven't been certified as urgent, we will have to follow the normal procedure. And that's going to put a lot of time pressure in terms of getting these bills passed. Now, of the 4 bills that the president said are our priority, to me, what we have to really enact immediately is the law giving teeth and creating an independent commission against infrastructure corruption, or ICAIC, because there has to be a continuity there. Kailangan tuloy-tuloy yung trabaho nila. And given the recent developments, the resignation of Secretary Singson, some announcements that the ICI is going to wind down already, it's so important that we enact the law creating that independent commission and giving it the teeth, the power that it has to have.
Okay, let's start first with the president actually meeting members of both houses of Congress. No? So going this far and not certifying this as urgent, saying that these are 4 priority measures, then why do you think that the president do this? He could have just certified it. Is this a PR stunt? Is this a PR stunt by the president?
It makes us really question how serious the entire administration is insofar as enacting these bills and measures into law and getting them approved. Because it's such a simple matter of certifying them as urgent. In fact, it's not only the Malacañang, the president, but even the House of Representatives leadership could have, because there's a provision in our rules that allows the Committee on Rules through the majority leader to declare any bill or resolution urgent at any time, and then to impose strict timelines for their passage. Now, the Independent Commission Bill, the ICAIC, has already gone through committee. I was part of the committee, even a technical working group. Dumaan na sa amin yan. We finished that more than 10 days ago. So we are wondering why that hasn't yet reached the plenary. That should go through the Committee on Appropriations and then plenary. And nagtataka kami kung bakit hanggang ngayon ay hindi pa rin umaabot sa plenary.
So pagdating sa ICAIC, palagay nyo ang dahilan. With the ICAIC, Malacañang, you're referring to, this is connected, this is the ICI? Yes. Because Malacañang, go on.
This is the legislative creation of the Independent Commission, which will take over the functions of the ICI.
But then you have Malacañang already saying that the president felt there was no need to essentially give more powers to the ICI.
That's what really puts us in a terrible quandary, because you have that statement from the president, then you have him now saying that this should be one of the priority measures. So, ano na nga ba? The mixed signals, I think, are interfering with the speedy passage of the law. And that is something that we will all suffer from. Because if you don't have a commission that has enough powers, then we really won't be able to assess how well it's doing its job. Especially since, although there were announcements that the ICI would live stream their proceedings, it only happened once. So we don't know what happened prior to that, who testified, what did they say exactly, what evidence was presented. Wala tayong alam. So how can we now assess whether this is going the right way or not?
Okay, but Representative Diokno, you have resignations already from the ICI. This could be a factor why the president must have felt it was unnecessary or to give it additional powers. You have the ombudsman saying that he believes that the ICI has 1 to 2 months to go. And doesn't the ombudsman have motu proprio powers anyway to investigate public officials?
That's true, Karen. The ombudsman does have that power.
Yeah.
However, he has such a broad mandate that they're not only going to look into the flood control projects or infra projects in general. They're handling a lot of different corruption and ill-gotten wealth cases. The reason why we want to have an independent commission created by law is so that it can focus very sharply on the infra corruption, because that kind of corruption affects all of us. Nakita na natin yan sa mga ghost projects sa flood control. And it's about time that we open this up, get to the bottom of this, and hold people accountable, especially those most responsible for what happened. The ombudsman's powers are diffused. And even the recent announcement indicates this, because I understand that they're looking for over 100 lawyers to help them in their staff so that they can do this job, which means that right now they wouldn't be capable of conducting a thorough investigation.
Okay, now what do you make of the president's actions? Because you yourself said you felt very confused.
Well, it's not sending a clear signal to the House leadership, and it doesn't. We don't know where this is coming from. Are they just saying this to pay lip service to what the people are demanding, or are they saying this because they're serious? If really they were serious, then a certification of urgency would have been the appropriate response from Malacañang.
Okay, let's talk specifically about the Anti-Dynasty Bill. He is the first president in recent years, at least, to say that this is a priority measure, right? So I'm curious, it's not certified as urgent. He says it's a priority measure. Realistically, in the next 2 years, do you believe it can be passed?
Yes, I believe it can be passed, especially with the atmosphere and the environment we have now, where everyone is demanding that we do something about this. Corruption and political dynasties are they're intimately connected. And if we want to address one, we have to address the other. Now, we in Akbayan, we have filed probably the broadest anti-political dynasty bill. Our bill covers relatives within the 4th degree of affinity and consanguinity, meaning up to first cousin. And if any incumbent official sitting now, anyone who's related to that person within the 4th degree cannot run in the next election. So that's one of the main features of our bill. Hindi rin pwede yung magkakasabay sila. Now, of course, there are many other bills that have been filed. Some of them call for only 2nd degree prohibitions. Others call for 3rd degree. And that really is the nature of the legislative process. There will be debates about this and discussions. But given the environment, it's important that we pass this as soon as possible. I don't think we can do this before Christmas, but we have to take it up and put it as the president said, a top priority for enacting legislation.
But why would you think that, number one, the president means it, or this is sincere, considering the president himself, his sister is a senator and his own son is a district representative? That's one. Sarili niyang anak ay congressman. Pangalawa, the House Speaker himself he is a representative of a political dynasty. Bakit papasa ito? Yung
We
mismong
cannot.
mga leader ay ehemplo ng political dynasty.
Totoo yun, Karen. That's the reality. But we cannot underestimate the power of people's expression of their opinion. And napakalakas ng ugong ng call for an anti-political dynasty bill, and all the moral and even legal backing is there. Because the Constitution itself has been calling for this for 4 decades. And now it's the people who are demanding it. And the president and the House leadership may have no choice but to do something, because ramdam na rin nila ang public pressure. The challenge is for us to be able to push this and to make sure that we come up with a reasonable anti-political dynasty law that really will prevent this from happening again. You know, for decades, power has been concentrated in the hands of so few political families, and it's about time, if we want our country to be a real democracy, to pass the anti-political dynasty bill.
Okay, now the Party List System Reform Act. How would you reform the party list system? You yourself
I think
are
there
a
are.
representative.
Yes, we would have to address, to me, the main reforms should revolve around the following. First of all, who can be accredited as a party list organization? How do we make sure that the basic sectors have representation, not contractors, not others with their own political agendas? Second, who can sit as nominees for those party list organizations? Kasi kahit na sabihin natin legitimate ang party list organization, represents a sector, baka naman ang kukunin nila is not someone who truly understands and represents the problems of that sector. Next, of course, is related to the political dynasty issue. Can party list representatives from political dynasties sit in Congress? We in Akbayan are also against this. Even in the bill that we filed on political dynasties, we included already a prohibition on party list dynasties joining in the party list seats. So these are among the things that we have to look into as far as party list reforms are concerned. And we're really pushing this as well. We hope to come up with a good bill for this in the coming days.
Okay, now the president has been announcing himself, right? Arrest warrants issued against individuals in the flood control scandal, charges to be filed. Are you satisfied, frankly, with what the government is doing, essentially, when it comes to pursuing justice for the flood control projects?
Let me put this in context, Karen. If you look at what happened, at least the available evidence that we know, because we're not privy to what happened in the ICI, but based on the available evidence, it would appear that this, what they did with the flood control projects is really unprecedented, because they tied it up to the budget. Ginawa nilang gatasan mismo yung budget. Everything was connected to what's included in the NEP, what's put through both houses, what gets into the BICAM most especially. And so that this means that this could not have happened without top officials knowing about it or even participating or condoning it. So why do I put this in that context? Because the litmus test for me for accountability insofar as these anomalies are concerned will be how high up are the charges going to be.
Okay.
However, let me say that because we don't know what evidence has been presented before the ICI, it's very hard to assess against whom the charges should be filed by the Office of the Ombudsman. It all depends really on what legal theory the Ombudsman adopts, because that will determine how high up the charges go.
Okay, may punto kayo dyan because Senator Ping Lacson himself said that the original sin really starts with these insertions in the budget. Now, you have critics actually or observers criticizing centrist opposition leaders like yourself. Use Representative Laila de Lima in the lower house. There's a group of you that's being criticized that you really aren't the minority because you aren't criticizing or calling for, let's say, accountability from former Speaker Martin Romualdez, Representative Saldico, but more of the former Speaker.
That's not true. In fact, in the last budget, we objected and voted against the unprogrammed appropriations, which is the very same vehicle that was used in the previous budget cycle to put all those insertions, some of which became ghost flood control projects. And we've been calling on Representative Saldi, former Representative Saldi, to come home. If you have something to say it here under oath, and let's evaluate. And if you have basis, then by all means, charges should be filed, even against people higher up, against the speaker and others involved. We have been calling for accountability for a long time, and we don't care who should be held accountable. If they are responsible, then they should go to jail. Wala naman kaming sinasanto eh. At para sa amin, kahit sino man yan, kung sila na ang may sala, dapat maparusahan.
Okay. Now, let's go to the budget. The Senate has passed it. Within the budget so far, with what's been passed by the lower house, there's going to be a bycam. What are your concerns?
Our biggest concern is whether that bycam is going to be accessible to the public, whether we can watch the proceedings, whether it will be live streamed. We, as early as more than 2 months ago, we already filed a joint resolution calling for an open bycam. The Senate, through Senator Soto and others, have also filed one. They have been very vocal in the Senate about this, becoming live streamed and public. But in the House, we haven't. The resolution that we filed hasn't moved, and that is a signal to us that there is some. The House leadership is lukewarm to this. I hope I'm wrong, because it's really important for the people that we have an open bycam so that no insertions, no magic that happened in previous budget cycles can happen again.
Okay. Now, Representative, have you actually seen a change in, I know the DPWH budget, ang sinabi nila, wala ng flood control. But we've also seen the increase of unprogrammed funds in this administration. What did you see in the 2026 budget?
Well, we saw signs that the unprogrammed appropriations will be used or may be used beyond their actual purpose. Yung unprogrammed kasi parang that's only intended to park other projects that are not yet fully funded.
Yeah.
But what we have seen from the previous budget cycles, and the reason why we voted against the budget when it was presented at plenary, is because the unprogrammed appropriations contain big ticket line items that should be in the regular budget. And we have been arguing against this for a long time, that why will you put these items there when they should be regular line items? The minute you put that in unprogrammed appropriations, you hand over the power of the purse to the executive department. You give it, you allow discretion to be exercised by the DBM and other executive officials, when that power should reside only in Congress.
Oo. So ang tanong ko, itong 2026, lumaki po ba yung unprogrammed funds na nandun na sa NEP? And did you see the lower house, did you see Congress make an effort to decrease the unprogrammed fund appropriations?
Not only by a little. If I recall, the exact figure is around 214 billion in unprogrammed appropriations. I think in the NEP it was around 240, if I'm not mistaken.
Oo.
So
Oo.
may nawala pero kaunti lang. If
Oo.
that had been radically reduced, perhaps we would not have voted against the budget. But given that huge amount, we felt we had no choice. And really, what's going to be one thing we should all be looking for in the BICAM is what's going to happen to the unprogrammed appropriations.
Okay.
The two versions are different, and we will have to see. We are personally pushing for a zero unprogrammed appropriations.
Okay, tama po ba ito for 2026? The record I have here is 250 billion pesos ang unprogrammed.
I think that was the original proposal. That was reduced a little bit. I don't know if I got the exact figure right, but around 214 or 215 billion was what we voted on at plenary.
Oo. And in 2025, the proposed unprogrammed was 532 billion.
Yes. And if you look from 2022, 2023, and 2024, doon tumaas yung unprogrammed appropriations. Kailangan may pananagutan yan. The people behind this, they should be investigated. That's why we're pushing for the House Bill 4453, the Independent Commission law, because there has to be accountability for this.
Oo. And your vision for the Independence Commission law is once it is strengthened, it is funded, this goes beyond the flood control issues of today.
All infrastructure projects.
Yeah, all. Oo.
Yeah.
Pero what
Kasi-
about the appointments? What about the appointments of that commission?
Well, the appointments will be made by the president, but there are certain specific qualifications that we have put into the law. And we hope that also through the people's monitoring and public opinion, we will also be able to influence how those choices are made to ensure that those who sit will be truly independent.
Okay. Now, Representative Ronnie Puno was interviewed and one of his concerns was nabawasan daw yung ayuda, yung AIX. Tama ba yun? Sa 2026, nawala po ba yun?
Well, let's put it this way. Para sa amin sa akbayan, yung ganun klaseng, the kind of ayuda that our country needs are the conditional ayuda like the 4-piece program, which are tied to conditions that the beneficiaries must commit to and satisfy, especially those commitments relating to the education of their children. Para sa amin, yun talaga yung kinakailangan. As we have seen, and we all know this, unconditional types of ayuda are really become a form of political patronage.
Absolutely.
And that's not something that is good for our country.
Oo. Binawasan po ba ang 4-piece?
What I know is that because the part of the budget for the DPWH was removed, buti naman ay nilagyan nila. Pero I don't think what was returned or put into the 4-piece is sufficient because of the big slash that it suffered in the last budget cycle. Ang pinupush namin ay madagdagan pa dapat ang budget ng 4-piece program.
Okay. Now, Representative Diokno, after seeing the 2025 budget, how would you describe the 2026 budget?
Well, it's a little bit better. At least there are certain flags have been avoided. However, I think the people must continue to guard against any kinds of insertions during the BICAM. And we also must look into how we need to continue looking into the process to ensure that it is truly aimed at development as in accordance with our development goals.
Okay.
Kasi what based on, I'm not privy to all the testimonies that were given during the ICI proceedings, but from what I can gather, there is an issue as far as allocables are concerned, or what they call allocables.
Yes.
That is also that may also be a problem in this year's budget. So
Oo.
kailangan natin bantayan yan.
Okay, now two quick questions for you. Akbayan filed a bill, this is House Bill 6619, allowing private citizens to directly initiate cases to recover ill-gotten wealth. Ang tanong ko, bakit kailangan po ang batas na ito? Sa ngayon po ba, an ordinary citizen cannot file or cannot initiate a case to recover ill-gotten wealth?
Well, the bill that we filed, 6 amendments to Republic Act 1379, the civil forfeiture law. Under the existing law, a private citizen may file a petition requesting the Solicitor General to conduct or to initiate forfeiture proceedings. So it does not, the present law does not give private citizens the right to file directly the petitions for forfeiture. Matagal na namin iniintay. In fact, as of now, I'm not aware of any civil forfeiture cases that have been filed by the Solicitor General that arising from these flood control and other infrastructure anomalies. And that really is a weapon that we feel has not been utilized by this government. And that's why we believe that we should allow ordinary citizens to file directly these forfeiture proceedings.
Okay, I want to ask you about the PCGG, the Presidential Commission on Good Government that was essentially formed, right? It was formed to essentially recover ill-gotten wealth from the Marcos dictatorship, from the Marcos family. Under the law, is it possible to revive the PCGG and recover ill-gotten wealth from other public officials, or by virtue of how the PCGG was formed, hindi pwede?
Baka mahirapan tayo dyan. I think that a law, a separate law would be more prudent for us to file, because that may give rise to a lot of challenges before the courts that we could avoid if we can create a new mechanism for that.
Which is what you suggested. It would be empowering the ICI.
That's one of them, yes, creating the independent commission, because the bill that we filed does not only cover the DPWH or flood control projects, but all infrastructure projects.
Because let's say after this administration, 2 years to go na lang po ito, 2.5 years. Let's say sa susunod na administration, if there's an independent commission already set up, right? That independent commission could actually be empowered to continue regardless of who sits, correct?
That would be, we do have a provision that would allow that. Yes.
Okay. Ang tanong ko, why would this administration support that? Baka naman yung susunod na mananalo, ang gawin niya, iutos niya na imbestigahan yung nakaraang administrasyon.
The bill that we filed it provides a 2-year period for the commission to exist, which will end, if I'm not mistaken, December of the second year.
Okay.
However, the Congress may decide to extend that, and we left it at that because we feel that at least we give the Congress an opportunity to decide whether that we need to extend the work being done by the Commission. We hope that this will be finished within 2 years, but at least meron option.
Okay, now I want to ask you this. You are actually calling for a probe into BPOs, right? BPOs forcing employees to work during calamities. What have you discovered?
Well, we've received a lot of complaints from employees of BPOs who in fact, I've had several direct conversations with some of them who really couldn't comply with the requirements of their companies. For example, one of the gentlemen I spoke to, his entire house was torn down by the typhoon or by the floods. And in as much as he did want to continue working and reporting to work, it was really impossible for him because he had to take care of his family. And this is not just one isolated incident, but we've discovered that it's happening quite substantially. So that's one of the reasons why we filed a resolution calling for an investigation. We want to get to the bottom, let's find out what happened and see how we can balance the interests of the BPO companies and the interests as well of the employees when it comes to disasters and floods.
Pero what's ironic here is, shouldn't the Department of Labor be doing its job? Shouldn't they be on this?
Meron silang issuance that appears to address this. However, it continues to happen. And that's why we feel the need to intervene.
Okay. All right. I think last words, Representative Diokno, essentially on the president's announcement. I think you've made it clear, number one, the difference between priority and urgent. It looks good in media when you read it, but will it really change? Your message, sir?
While the prioritization of these bills, the Political Dynasty Bill, the Independent Commission, the Party List Reform, and the Cadena Bill are welcome, we don't believe that this is sufficient. If the president, the administration is serious, truly serious about making these bills become laws immediately, then the president must certify them as urgent. That will allow us to act on them as quickly as possible and to get the laws passed, at least the Independent Commission passed before the Christmas break.
On that note, thank you for joining me today, Akbayan Party List Representative Chel Diokno. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.